Hello, and welcome to You Can Grow Your Own Way, a conversation for parents and carers of neurodivergent children. I feel so privileged you are taking time out of your busy life to learn all about the ways to interpret neurodivergence for you and your child. Remember, all advice on this podcast is general and may not specifically apply to your child, so we encourage you to also talk to your GP, paediatrician or specialist to see if what you've learned will help your family. Hello and welcome to season 4 of You Can Grow Your Own Way. I can't believe we're actually going to be launching season 4. This is very exciting. And we are starting today with a taboo topic. We're going to start discussing puberty and all things that go along with it. So we're going to do this across 2 different episodes. Today is more of an introduction. And I'm really, really lucky to be speaking to Heather Jolly today. Heather works for Family Planning Australia, which is a reproductive and sexual health organisation. Heather works in research and education, which aims to make healthcare and information about sexual health more accessible for people with disabilities and additional needs. So this is going to be a really informative, maybe a little awkward, but highly important conversation. So let's get into it. So, Heather, I'm going to start us
Golly.
off with a really big question here.
Mhm.
Who is the most important person in a child's puberty journey?
The child definitely is the first person that comes into my mind. So we always want to be thinking about people's health from the perspective of the person that we're thinking about. So if we're talking about someone's child, we want to include them and be thinking about them at every point of their journey in health and in puberty. But at a close second, parents and carers. Um, Parents and carers have a really important role because they're a trusted person, in most cases, a trusted person for a child, but also because every family, every household has really important pieces that make them who they are,
Mm,
whether it's
mm,
cultural pieces, values. So we want to make sure that parents and carers feel confident to be a trusted person in the puberty journey for their child or young person, um, but in a way that also suits who they are as
mm.
people and as a family.
And it's funny, like, I think it feels like a very weighty burden to bear as a parent or a
Mm,
carer to introduce a child to really what is such a huge transformational change for them, and to help them understand it, hopefully in a positive context. So I'm really glad that we're going to be having this discussion today because I know, well, as I've mentioned to you before, Mr. Nine is currently starting his puberty journey at the moment, and we're beginning that navigation. And it can be so well. It can be similar, but also very different for our neurodivergent children because of how they understand information, because of how they feel things in their bodies, and how we then work out the best way to explain it to them. So I'm
mm,
glad you flagged the importance, firstly, of the child, because really, you're so right. At the center of it all really is, I mean, it's them. And we need to
mm,
make it feel not familiar, but less daunting, I suppose.
mm,
And then, yeah, placing the awareness of the responsibility that parents and carers do carry based on that connection they have with their child. So,
mm.
um, yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, it's you said the word responsibility, which is really important. And the other word that flashed in front of my eyes was opportunity as well. And why I think about that is it gives you a bit of room to control a bit of the narrative too.
Mm, mm,
So there's a lot of information out there, more than there ever has been. I certainly can't keep up. So you being involved as a parent or carer in the information that your child that you care so much about is getting is really important, because with this world that they're out and living in now, in the different circles that they're involved in once they leave the home, you having a role in the puberty journey and their education around that
mm,
is such an important opportunity. because without that, you're leaving it a bit up to chance of where they'll get it. Because we know that if young people, they don't get it from somewhere, they're going to get it from somewhere else.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
all young people, and they crave it. They want something's happening to their bodies, like, they wanna know what's going on, so they're gonna get it from somewhere. So, you being involved is an opportunity to be a part of that.
And that's such a really great point. I mean, if we think about it, and we'll get into this, I think, a little bit further down really deeply later. But, when we were growing up, the
Mm,
information sources that we had outside of our parents was our school, our
mm,
peers, and maybe if we found something in the library or we found a magazine that was hiding somewhere, or possibly
mm.
girlfriend and Dolly kind of liked to talk about it.
Yeah.
Um, but if we think of the stratosphere of information that is accessible now, and how difficult it is to even know where that might be coming from. You're right. It's an opportunity to shape a positive narrative that fits within our value systems, and to create a conversation that means that for a whole range of reasons, as we continue to go down this journey, we can keep having those discussions with our children. And they feel like
Absolutely.
this is something that we can connect with, and they don't need to source somewhere else for it.
Yeah, exactly. It's an ongoing opportunity. Absolutely. I think that's a really important point.
So, as I was saying, for parents, it can feel really scary and daunting. I
Mm,
actually think one of the reasons it feels scary and daunting is because it was sort of still quite taboo when a lot of us were growing up.
mm,
And so those open discussions were things that we didn't actually have. So we're learning ourselves as we're doing this. But how do we prepare ourselves for sort of the questions, the changes, and some of the challenges that can arise as we enter the tween and hormone stage?
mm. So I think it's starting with educating ourselves as parents and carers. Health literacy, information literacy, online literacy is something that we all are ongoing students of, right? So, if someone thinks they're nailing it, good luck to you. I do not think I am that person. We're like I said, we're up against a lot. There's a lot of information from a lot of sources. So, a really important first step is for us to gather information and make sure that it's from a trustworthy source. Because we want to make sure that then what we're passing on, albeit with our own nuance that suits our family systems,
Mm,
but that we're getting it from a reliable source to start with. So making sure things are coming from a reputable organisation trusted in the community. One of the projects for the organisation I'm lucky to work with is called Planet Puberty. Planet Puberty is a project that was co-designed with parents and carers who have young people with an intellectual disability or autism spectrum disorder. And Planet Puberty is a suite of online resources that is aimed at helping equip parents and carers at navigating the wild planet of puberty. So, having that is one great source that was made for this purpose. In recognizing a gap, wanting to provide a bit of a one-stop shop,
mm,
and with different types of information too. I think we know that every young person likes to learn differently.
mm,
So we can't make one booklet and say this is the booklet for all young people in Australia, and this is going to work for every one of them. Hooray! If only, right? That's not realistic. So we know what we need to do when we make information about health is make it in different ways,
mm,
so that there is a way of sharing this information with
mm,
all young people that will be accessible to them. So Planet Puberty's got a lot of great information. um, I mean, the good old fashioned library has great books. The internet has a plethora of places where people can go. It's just making sure that we're checking where that source came from.
mm,
Yeah, so
mm.
checking that it is from a professional, in that we're talking about puberty, sexual and reproductive health organisation or expert, so that you can feel confident that that information is accurate.
And I think the really great thing that we're seeing now as well is the way that that conversation is being delivered.
Mm,
So I can certainly remember the black and white awkward delivery that we got when we were in grade 6 and then also when we were in year 10, too late, um, and how it we felt serious about this discussion because the teachers who were delivering it felt uncomfortable. When our
Mm,
parents tried to deliver it to us, they felt uncomfortable.
mm,
Um, it was made to be incredibly scientific and it didn't touch on emotion and it didn't touch on ick, or any of those parts of
mm,
reality, let's be honest, of the body
mm.
experience.
Feeling good,
Whereas,
God
yeah,
forbid.
well,
It's like,
yeah, exactly. And
mm,
so now the sources are just so much more approachable. They're so much more human. Um, I think there's information out there now where there's humor and
mm,
you can have, I mean, there's comic books, there's all sorts of things. So it's definitely a much better way to have the discussion, as you said, in a method that actually suits the young person
yeah.
who's reading it. And I love, like, the more research you do, the more you're going to find the material that is going to
Mm,
gel
yes.
with your child.
Mm. Something that is really helpful to do when thinking about that. So, like, say we've armed ourselves, we've got our toolkit. I would say never to have one thing. Don't have a book. If you can have a few different things, and you've gone and done your homework as a parent or carer. And it's time. We'll call it the talk. It's time to have the talk, the first of the discussions. A great first thing to ask our young person, and we're modeling a bit of consent and permission giving as well when we're doing this, to
Right.
say, like, "Oh, I'd like to talk to you about your body today, and I've got a few different things here that I gathered that I thought might be helpful. So I've got a book, I've got maybe some cards, so you could use a visual schedule. Laminating things, I feel like always makes them more powerful. That maybe we've cut up. Maybe we've got a social story. Maybe we've got our laptop or iPad open with a video or a game. But we've got a few things, and we say to our young person, "I've got these different things here. What does one of them look better to you? Is one of these choices I've brought look like a good way of having a chat about this with you today?" And starting at that by putting a bit of the ball in their court and saying, honestly, like, a lot of young people will say, "Oh, well, obviously, I don't have the iPad, thanks." You know, um, but okay. And something interesting, it actually, with that option always too, is like having an iPad or a laptop, but it puts a little third
Yes,
person, it puts a little barrier in the
buffer.
mix. Puts a
Yes.
little buffer in the mix, exactly. So all of a sudden they're not sort of looking into your eyes where you're talking about the body odor. Yeah, so I think having options and presenting options and choice to a young person is a really, really nice way to start.
I while you're talking, I don't know why, but it's just reminded me of a recent anecdote and I feel like I need to share it because
Please.
I just think it's joyous. I found it the most adorable thing. So Mr. 7 is watching the conversations that we've been having with Mr. 9,
Hmm.
and he's never one to be outdone. So he was in the car the other day and from the back seat, I hear, "Hey, mum," and I'm like, "Yeah, mate, what's going on?" It's like, "Do you know I'm becoming a man?"
Wow.
And
Newsflash.
I said, "Well, definitely, like, you'll be becoming a man for sure. Is there something in particular?" And he goes, "I've seen hair on my legs and my arms, so I'm becoming such a man." And I
Wow.
was like, "Yeah, mate. Yeah, you
Yeah.
really are. Yep, that's yes, yes, you are."
That's
Just
beautiful, and positive. What a joyful, it is joyful, and you make such an important point there that uh, you mentioned earlier about having these experiences where when this education was given to you, it was given with like a fear and a discomfort that was palpable. Um, so to hear the opposite of that, where a young person's bringing it up in this way of, "I've got this great news story. There's hair happening, and I'm amazing. So check it out."
yes.
It's
Yeah,
wonderful.
it made my heart burst. I was like, "Don't giggle," because this is one of those moments where if you giggle, you could kill it.
Yeah,
I wanted to giggle, but it was absolutely beautiful.
that is
So
beautiful.
beautiful.
Magic.
So I'm gonna ask a question specific to our group,
Yeah.
And that is, what do you think is the biggest difference between talking to a neurotypical child and talking to a
Mm.
neurodivergent child
Mhm.
about puberty?
Well, maybe a boring answer to give you, and I'm sorry in advance, but not much. That's the reality.
Yeah,
Um,
that's good.
the information is a right. Sexual and reproductive health education and information is a human right. We want all of our young people to have that right and to have this information. Um, Cheesy saying alert, but knowledge is power. This really
Yeah.
helps young people. It helps them to feel included, for starters. To feel included in this education that a neuro, awful stories I hear where a neurodivergent young person has been asked to step out of a room while their neurotypical classmates have gotten education. There's so much wrong there, and yeah, no, absolutely not.
Mm, sorry, I'm
Um,
cringing for those who aren't
yeah,
watching on
it
the
is
YouTube. I'm just
cringy.
like shimmied right back in my chair. That's just
Yeah,
terrible.
awful. And I wish I hadn't heard it once or twice. It's something we hear often, and it's a missed opportunity for everyone in that scenario.
Yeah.
So we certainly want to make sure that neurodivergent young people get this information as a part of it being a human right, to empower them, to help them feel aware, maybe even excited about these
Yeah.
changes that are happening to them. But also, we want to, with, with all young people, we want to give them the opportunity to learn in the way that helps them.
Yeah.
We want to make sure, we know that with intellectual disability, with neurodivergence, that is spectrum is so broad. So
Yeah.
we don't have this one magic book that I can say this is going to be the book that will be helpful. Um, the most important point of difference, but again, I would to say this for every young person in the world, is to sit with them and say, how do you like to learn? I'd
Yeah.
like to talk to you about the body. We're going to talk about the body. We're going to talk about some health stuff, um, and I'd like to know so that it helps you. Like, how do you like to learn?
Right.
So if I'm going out and working with some young people in the community, I have my travelling office, also known as an X-Trail. And in the back of my car, there's a lot of different things. Um, the other day, I had a few different things. I was speaking to some young people, and I had some medical kind of tools in a box. And even the box was upsetting one of these young people. They're just the idea of a healthcare tool, medical tool, that was never going to work. So I can see that you don't like the look of this box that I've got here, so I'm gonna go pop that outside.
Right.
Um, let's talk about what might be a helpful way to talk to you today about whatever.
Yeah.
And so I think that is the most important point with making it successful with neurodivergent children, is really catering to their learning needs and their comfort needs. So you've
Mm.
got the checking what kind of information is helpful. But in terms of that comfort, what do you know as their parent or carer in other settings where you're helping them to learn something that makes them feel safe?
Yes.
Do you need to do it in the car? Car therapy, I mean, is a classic move a lot of parents and carers have.
Mhm.
Is that
No eye contact, doesn't have too
yeah.
much demand. Yep.
You just mentioned I think you said that the story about the hair was in the car. So
Yes.
cars can be fascinating oracles of information sharing.
Yes, they can.
So maybe it's that. Maybe it's the bedtime chat where they are meant to be going to bed and they say, just one more thing. I just want to ask. But if it's 10 o'clock and they want to ask and that's the moment, go
Grab
for
it.
it. Grab it.
Yeah.
Grab it. So
Yeah.
I think it's those two things. What time what can you use to make the education helpful for that young person, but what can you add in that moment to make it comfortable, make it feel safe, and not what you described earlier, that ugh, they're freaking out, so should I freak out? Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Nine, we know, needs repetition as well.
Mhm.
So, we're very aware that a conversation can happen once, but that conversation will need to happen probably in a range of different settings a
Yep.
number of times because there'll be a little bit that will come from each
Yep.
before it all gets stored into the memory and then the cognition happens and the understanding comes forward.
Mm.
Um, and so we we have the joy of having the conversation many times. But um, but also that then, the plus side to that is it normalizes it because the more often we
Mm.
talk about it, then the more often I suppose it's visible to him that we're willing to talk
Yeah,
about it too.
totally.
Mm.
Absolutely. I think that's and then it's that's the that exact example of knowing what works for that for Mr. Nine. It's that repetition and keeping the conversation ongoing. It's an interesting point too because also hear the story a lot of the talk being this singular moment that can you imagine? Here's your
Mm.
sexual and reproductive health education forever in 10 minutes with everything you'll ever need to know, and we're done. It's a bit of a wild concept, actually, that I've never truly thought about. So I think what you're doing makes a lot more sense.
I love it as well because it means that the talk has to have both words have to have a capital T.
Mm,
The talk. That's it.
yeah,
Underline, full
and
stop.
that's it. The talk,
Director,
the
roll credit.
end. Yeah, wild. I really it's very bold of a if anyone succeeded with that, good luck to you. But I think ongoing conversations are more likely to be successful.
Yes, yes, definitely. Just like how we discover our bodies and our sexual health and our emerging needs
Mm,
as we grow. So,
yeah,
um, I talking about 80s and 90s.
mm, please.
So, I got handed the Where Do I Come From book,
Hmm.
and anyone of my generation will remember that book,
Hmm.
and the What's
Iconic.
Happening to Me book as well,
Hmm.
with very specific types of illustrations. So, in your role, what have you seen change?
Mm. Um, I too, I got How I Began. So,
Ah,
yeah, I probably was lucky to get, a lot my mum was a midwife, so my education was probably a radical for the '80s, um, and I'll tell you and your audience a cheeky little quick story that I maybe or maybe did not take the book to my small Catholic primary school to teach my classmates about how they began, because I knew this type of job was destined for me a long time ago. And turns out not all of the families in the school were ready for me to teach their children in year two about how they began. So, yeah, I think a lot has definitely changed since then. I don't know if that method would go down much better now, to be honest. But yeah, I was very lucky, and I think that that idea that you're talking about of like ongoing open conversation was very normal for me, and so I thought it was normal for everyone else. And I guess live in a situation now where I hope it is. I hope
mm,
that I still have hope for that. So in terms of beyond the books, though, now
yes.
we've got more information, but it's a good and a bad thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like every topic that you would talk about with your audience. Information is a wonderful thing, and accessible. We've got more accessible information now than we ever had. So if we reflect on these books from the '80s, they all the people look a certain way. They really are
Mm,
not representative of our rich society that we live in. So for that alone, they are flawed. So I love that there's a lot of information now, and I believe this that there is information about sexual and reproductive health that is good and accessible for every single person in our society. There's something there.
mm,
The challenge of how much there is navigating through a lot of the kind of less than ideal pieces of information to get there. That's where we come in, though. I think that's where we can really help our young people. Um, if we can prepare information that we're comfortable with and we trust first, and especially giving them options, because they want to look. We can't give a young person our website.
Mm.
They know there's more than our website.
Mm.
Come
Yes.
on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I think it's we have to give them options. But yeah, so we've got the internet, we've got games, we've got cards, we've got social stories, we've got books. It's all there. Yes, good. Just gives us a little bit more work as trusted people to make sure we're critically looking at all those choices before we're sharing them with people we care about.
And look, this conversation could cross over, I suppose, into a lot of the way we manage or the way we're aware of our kids' digital exposure
Yeah.
and technical exposure, because that let's name the elephant in the room.
Mm,
That's probably the biggest risk here is what
yeah,
they might find on TikTok or
totally.
on Facebook or Instagram or
Mm,
on YouTube or
mm,
RedTube and YouPorn
yeah,
and all the other things
yeah,
that are free and accessible online.
yeah.
Um, and it brings us right back to that first point of opportunity,
Mm,
that we've got an opportunity to have these conversations first. How, I don't know, this isn't a question we discussed beforehand, but I'm going to ask and see what your thoughts are.
go for it.
um, so, how would you have the conversation around what you see online
Mm,
and how to help your child understand how to filter that information, I guess?
mm, yeah. So I think, if we're talking with young people, that thinking about most young people also have Netflix. So use Netflix as an example.
Mm.
And thinking about how sometimes you can watch on Netflix and there's like make believe shows like SpongeBob.
Mhm.
We'll use SpongeBob. Thank you, SpongeBob, for your example. So SpongeBob we know is make believe because SpongeBob is a sponge with
Yes.
SquarePants. Like we know it's really obvious for us all to know that SpongeBob is not real life. Um, Sometimes though, where there's human actors like us that look like you and me, it's harder to tell when it's real life and when it's not real life.
Mm.
And that's really important to know that there's a lot of information on YouTube and on Netflix and even on our most trusted channels that are made for us to watch to be fun or entertaining or whatever that look like real life, but they are not. So romance and pornography, I don't know if it depending on the age, if you'd be
The
talking about
age, yeah.
pornography, but
Yeah.
let's say for the elephant in the room,
Mm.
pornography is not real. It's performing. It's
Mm.
entertainment. So we just need to assume most of what we're going to watch in videos is not real life. But it's very hard for us to tell, and that doesn't mean there's something wrong with us because it's real people. So it's very confusing. And so again, it becoming back to that first stuff we chatted around about how can we check? So if we want to know if some information we're getting about our bodies is real and trustworthy, we're going to have to look down into the about or
Mm.
down the bottom. So we could ask a trusted person in our life to help us do that. Can you help check for me? That might be a bit cringe and embarrassing to ask, whoever you're growing up at home are. But even if they've got a close cousin or an auntie or an uncle, like a trusted teacher, um, where they can check, if they're wanting to learn about changes to their body and they want to see, like sometimes young people really just want to see what a naked adult body looks like, not because they're trying to watch porn. They want to know, hey, I woke up with pubic hair today. Like, where is this going?
Mm.
What,
Is
what's the
this
journey?
normal? Does this
What's
happen to other
normal?
people? Yeah.
Exactly. And then they Google it and what happens there, right?
Mhm.
Things go on
Yes.
a journey. So I think, if we can let our young people know that you're going to get curious about things and you're probably going to want to look them up on the internet. Um, if you think they can check and understand if something's a trusted source, great. So where do you look? Let's have a look together. So at the bottom of this page, we can see it's made by this trusted group. Or in the
Mm.
about, we can see it's made by this trusted group. If you don't feel confident that they could navigate that process, asking them, look, who's someone that you trust? So, like, I've got daughters, and I know, even though I have this great idea that they'll talk to me about everything, that they're just not going to. And
No.
so I've had conversations with my older one who's getting into some of these interesting times of life, where I've said, if you don't want to talk to me about something, who else can you talk to in our life that's another trusted grown up? Because I just
Um,
want you to always have someone you can check stuff with.
uh,
You can always come to me, but if you don't want to, I can cope. I just want to know that you've got someone you can.
yeah.
So that was a very waffly way of saying, first step, if we can help our young people to have that online literacy, but it's hard. Like, I think we have to acknowledge too, like I said, of the example, SpongeBob, obviously fake. You
Mm,
and I could go do some kind of role play now, and how can you tell? So I
yes.
think if we can't feel confident that our young people can clearly tell, then, which is, I would say, a lot, um, inviting them to name some people in their life that can help them check.
Mm.
Saying simply no, I'm going to be really bold here, basically has never worked in history. So,
Not only has it never worked in history, you're basically guaranteeing that they will do it
yeah,
without you knowing,
yeah,
and then there's no transparency over
yeah.
what's going on.
And it's I've been fortunate of working in a more of a group environment now in education, but I've worked one on one with people for many years before. And a very common referral that I would get in working with people with disability and additional needs is people who had been, whose parents and carers, and I say this in no disrespect, for their own reasons, had tried to sort of block them entirely from getting
Mm,
sexual and reproductive health education,
mm,
then have gone and got it through kind of, you know, underground channels, we'll say,
yes. Yep.
and ended up, unfortunately, I've worked with many people who've been in dangerous situations online,
Mm, yep.
or gotten terrible misinformation online about themselves or their bodies, or they've come across things on the internet that they shouldn't be seeing because they're disturbing. And then you got to unlearn,
Yes.
so it's,
And
yeah,
repair
yeah.
what they've seen. Yeah. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
really tricky. So I think getting ahead of the narrative, getting ahead is always helpful. But I do, for some parents and carers, it's probably never going to be an option. They just can't do it, and that's okay too. But we need to know then who will, that's trusted.
Yes.
So if
Yeah.
you can't do it, it's not to shame those parents and carers at all. But if you can't or won't, that, for whatever reasons, that could be very valid. Who can do that?
Mm,
Who can you outsource that to?
mm.
That will make sure that's done in a safe way, because they're gonna go and find this information, I promise.
Well, and look, I was just there's two things I suppose I wanted to call out that become they can when they occur together, they can be quite conflicting, and I can totally understand where the challenge comes from for this. So, the reality is that all bodies have hormones that will create change.
Yeah,
It's going to happen, like
inevitable.
that's just
Yeah,
a reality. Girls are going to menstruate, they're
yeah,
going to get boobs, like all of these things are going to happen. Their bodies are
mhm,
going to grow and prepare. Boys are going to get hair, body
yeah,
odor, their testicles are going to drop. They're going to get an Adam's apple. These things all
mhm,
happen. Um, I think one of the challenges that we can have, and you mentioned intellectual disabilities, but also when you've got the difference between chronological
mm,
age and developmental age.
mm,
And I can understand how if you've got a 9-year-old
mhm,
who is developmentally 4 or 5, how it
yeah,
can seem almost perverse. Like it may feel perverse
mm,
to be talking to them about those topics at
yeah,
that particular age. But
mm,
as you said, the reality is it's still going to
mm,
be happening to their body and they're still going to be curious and they're going to want to understand.
yeah.
I mean,
And
I
their
would
peers are
say,
gonna be talking about it, like, that's the other thing,
yep,
right? Is
yes,
that if you were using your example, we'll call her Miss 9. Miss 9 is around other 9-year-olds, we
mm,
can assume. Um, we know at that age that certainly puberty changes, can absolutely be happening, and it's
Mm,
within the, healthy age range that for these changes to be occurring. So if Miss Nine isn't curious about her own body, she'll be curious about her peers' bodies. Maybe on Sunday, her friend had no breast tissue, and then on Wednesday they're at sports, and all of a sudden she notices there's some little breast buds.
mm, mm.
And sometimes people get worried. I mean, that's a precious thing I definitely come across with young people too. They, might get, what's happened to my friend? What's happened to me?
Is she unwell?
Yeah,
Does she
totally.
need to see a doctor?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So, I mean, so periods is a massive one. Can you imagine if you had no idea about menstruation, no idea about periods, and one day your body is inexplicably bleeding? I mean, that
Mhm,
W
mhm.
I've never come across a young
Never
person that's not scared
yeah.
of they get a little scrape on their knee
Yeah,
and you need to get
yeah.
the best Band-Aids out of the top cupboard out. So, it's really, it can be very unsettling for people that aren't prepared. So, while I totally think the chronological biological age discussion is important for many, many reasons, particularly, I guess, in how you approach educational materials. It's not okay to give to that 9-year-old a book that's got small words full of medical jargon. That's not a
Yeah.
helpful idea for anyone.
Mm,
Um, we need to get her the information about her body as it's what's happening chronologically. We need to get
yes.
her that information, but we need to consider the biological side of things in terms of how it's presented.
Yes. Yeah.
Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
It 100% makes sense, and look, we're a family, and not every
Mm,
family is the same, and so openly saying this is just the choice that we made, but we have always had open but age appropriate conversations when
mm,
questions come up. We get a lot of questions because my children are adopted. They weren't born
mhm,
in the normal ways. So there's
mhm,
lots of questions
mhm,
about, did my boobies make milk? And that
mm,
then leads to how do boobies make milk? And
mm.
all of
Great
those kinds of
questions.
discussions. Because kids are curious, as they should
Yeah.
be. That's the beauty of children.
Mm,
And so from my point of view, it is about finding the developmental age
mm.
appropriate language to explain the chronological age changes.
Yeah, totally.
And so if you know that certain language isn't going to make sense to them, that
Mm,
doesn't necessarily mean they don't deserve the information.
mm,
And periods is such a great example
mm.
because if you don't give them that insight, I can't even imagine. And I know, look,
Terrifying.
it's happened. It's happened for generations in areas where
Mm.
it's too taboo to talk about. But what a horrible thing to wake
Oh
up
my
and just
god.
worry that you were broken.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
Terrifying. And, the one of the fun, little bonuses that, with periods, pain.
Yes.
Pain is a
Yes.
very scary, scary thing. Yesterday, I felt healthy, and today I feel pain, and
Uh,
there's blood coming out of my body. Like, I think for the most well-prepared young person when that happens, it's a lot.
yes.
It's, but I think we can definitely help young people feel more comfortable with it by equipping them with the information that is acceptable to them.
And as you said earlier, and I know you gave a cheese warning, knowledge is power.
Yeah.
When you have information, especially in advance, about what's happening to your body, you do feel more in
Mm.
control of those changes
Yeah.
because you're aware not only of what's happening, but why it's happening, what it's going to lead to,
Mm.
how it's actually the maturation of your body. It's part of growing
Yeah.
older, it's something that's exciting.
Mm.
Um, rather than it being confusion and fear.
Absolutely. And think I won't go as far to say every young person is going to feel excited about it, but sometimes they might. Sometimes they
Mm,
do when they have been equipped with the information that's accessible to them, and then changes happen. It's like I'm become you're mentioned with your Mr. 8, I believe, that oh, this is this thing where I'm
yes,
growing up. I love with with children how you ask them like how old they are, and it's so specific. Like I am 8 years old, 3 months and 4 days, and my birthday is in this season, and I'm gonna get this. Okay, cool. That was a lot of information, but yeah, all right. Where how old am I? I'm in my 40s. We'll leave it at that. So they are, they're very tuned in to how old they are and very interested in growing up. And most of them, okay, want to be bigger and want to be bigger and stronger and older, or whatever that looks like for them. So there is the potential that if we talk about these changes in a certain way, they might just get excited about them. I can't
Yes.
promise it. I don't want to sign on the dotted line, but it's possible.
Possible they may look forward to it. Their first
Mm.
period, they may not be just as quite as excited.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
might be looking forward to the idea of the transformation.
Yeah, and maybe it's they're not excited about the period, but they might be excited. That means they're getting some breasts. So,
Yes.
or it might be something else, or maybe that you've worked out in your family that when that happens, that's something you'll do something special. So maybe you say, on that day we're going to go and buy you some big girl clothes. Like it's
Yeah.
time. We're going to go let you pick um some little sports bras or crop tops that or whatever, but if you can sometimes turn it into this moment that comes with it some nice things.
Yes. Yes.
It can make it, and in terms of options too, even period products compared to this lovely time we discussed of the 80s, there are options now, um, uh, and beautiful looking period undies in terms of that visual. There are things that
Mhm.
I think we can look
Mhm.
at that
Mhm.
that might visually make the experience feel a bit more light and bright.
My little Miss Five,
Mhm.
at least once a week when she's getting out of the shower, will say, "Mummy, I think my boobies are getting a little bit bigger. I think they're gonna be like yours."
Today's the day. Oh, bless. So excited. So I think that body changes can be exciting. They are at the end of the day too. They are also inevitable. I think
Yes, that's it.
that the
They're
helpful
inevitable.
thing to know that
Mm.
and this is, gosh bless, she's got a while to wait too, doesn't she? It's going to be a lot of weeks of anticipation. But
I've
the
had 6 months of asking when she's starting school, so,
oh
that's
wow.
she's just a keen bean.
Just like an excitable person, which is delightful. So I think that's like a great example of open conversations and just normalizing. Change is normal. Bodily
Mm.
changes are a normal, inevitable part of life. I must add, I recently had a discussion with a dear friend about this, who's young person. We'll call him Miss 12. Maybe was feeling not. Something wasn't quite right with her. She wasn't changing at the pace of her
Mm.
those
Mm.
closest to her. And I think when we have to remember when we're talking with young people about puberty, bit like how we said before at the talks, this one moment, puberty is not one moment for everybody. It is so astoundingly broad how different the changes are for each
Mm.
person's body, and how miles apart it could be for you and your best mate who's a month apart in age. Um, and I think that can leave some young people feeling like, yeah, like something's wrong with them.
Mm.
My closest girlfriends are wearing bras, they've got their periods, and my body hasn't changed since 2 years ago.
Mm. Mm.
That's okay. It's a
Yeah.
broad, so we're looking at sort of 8 to 18 as the spectrum, that
Mm.
if things are happening in that range, doctors and nurses would typically not be worried unless there was something
Yeah.
else to go, but if you're
Yes.
within that age range,
Yes.
that's that we're looking at. So I think that's also really important, and I should have mentioned that earlier, because I do think we need to prepare them almost for these changes,
Mm.
especially when I think we're thinking about neurodiversity, and we know some people with neurodiversity can be quite literal.
Yes.
So we
They
don't
like the
want.
concrete and the black and white.
Yes, and it's not concrete, and I'm so sorry about that, and I think we need to be honest about that. So while I'm talking to you today about these changes that are happening to your body or that are going to happen soon. Soon, we have to be remember, could not be soon for your young person. So
Mm.
just thinking about that and how you know them, how you'll incorporate that into your time together. Um, maybe it's you've noticed something. I've noticed that you've got some hair under your armpits, and that's one of the changes that happens with puberty. And these are some other changes, but they
Mm.
might not happen for a while, and that's
And they
okay.
don't happen in a particular order.
They no, exactly.
There's
So
no
I
schedule that you can kinda tick off as you go along.
yeah, so I think just
Mm.
letting them know it's this really broad period where things change and happen,
Mm.
um, and that's okay. And it's
Mm.
really different for everyone, and just like all of our hair color is different and our eyes are different. And I've got freckles, but your friend who you described does not. That's
Mm.
all normal, and our bodies just change at different speeds. And then you always have that friend too. We've all had the friend that y- is upset that they're not having changes, and then over a weekend they go through them all. So
Yeah. In the back of my mind, I was thinking it's kind of, and I'm just thinking it in terms of what my kids would relate to. It's like
Mm.
wobbly teeth.
Oh yes.
That different kids get
Mm.
wobbly teeth at different stages and
Hmm.
different ages, and, some have them in kinder and some don't, and some are still losing them in grade
Yeah.
6 and some aren't,
Yeah.
and, like, it's kind of it's quite similar in that it's going to
Totally.
do what your body needs to do.
Yeah. And it's all okay. So I think that's an awesome example, a perfect example of thinking of something that can help our young person understand this really quite abstract
Mm,
idea,
mm,
or I guess not this abstract reality of it's hard. So if it's teeth, but thinking, I think of something else where you
mm.
can use to illustrate just how different these changes are for everyone is really helpful, and that it's all okay. I guess that we want you to come to us or to a trusted person if you're worried.
Mm,
And if there's
mm,
nothing to worry about, we can let you know. And if there is, great, then we can work out what to do next.
mm.
Um, so we want, if say a young person feels pain or if they're staying up at night wondering why something hasn't happened, like let us know so we can let you know.
Yeah.
But keeping in mind that it's just such a different journey for everyone. You've only got to
And I
walk into a year 8 class is a great example of that. Early high school, really fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, well, that's just taking me back to the smell of lynx.
Yeah. Oh, mate, I tell you, there's never a day. So I take out when in my traveling office extra, I take out um, if I'm working with someone or people that want to learn with tactile tools, they like
Mm.
tools, and I'll show links. Africa's the classic, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And
Oh,
versus
oh.
like, oh mate, I know I can taste it. Versus like a scentless, non-aerosol option.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's a really important discussion in that in terms of you're on your puberty journey. Well, your mate next to you may not appreciate being so involved in it by copying a mouthful of Africa. So yeah, um, but
I
there's
mean, I'm still scarred from corridors that stank of the combination
yeah,
of impulse and Lynx Africa
yeah,
and how they fuse together, so
yeah, it's intense. I'm definitely picturing myself playing what's it called? Dodgeball and yeah, PE kind of vibes being
yes.
very, very much a sensory overloading experience. Um, and I think it's really important to think about with neurodivergent young people because, you know, um, an intense scent from a deodorant it
Mm.
could be really distressing. It is we are joking about it, but it is such an
Gosh, yeah.
important part of the
Yep,
discussion.
yep.
Introducing these products and again, I think we are in an era now where there's not just those 2 brands anymore, hooray. Um, there are a lot of options, and I mean, sometimes we're going down the rabbit hole now of BO, but, we don't always need it either.
No.
that having a little bit of a scent of your body is okay too. And there's some great visual schedules and social stories about, how we can why did we not stink yesterday and then today we do, but how we can care for our bodies in a way and wash ourselves that maybe reduces the need to go full spray.
Very good point, very important. I mean,
Mm,
I've been thinking in the back of my mind actually the whole way through this conversation. I'm like, visual schedules for a lot of our
mm,
kids is just gonna be fundamental for such a
yeah,
huge change in, I mean, if you've spent so much time teaching your children certain routines in self-care and body
yeah,
care, that this transition is a big one. There are certain places they're going to have to wash more than they have before, and
yeah,
at the moment, I mean, Mr. Nine didn't have to wash his face specifically. It would just wash in the shower and it was
mm,
fine. Well, now we're actually getting oil on our skin. And
yeah,
so we have to use a face washer and we have to actually be somewhat abrasive about how we wash our face.
mm,
And all of these things, on top of the education that this is why it's happening, we as
yeah,
parents and carers need to work out how we then teach them to be empowered to engage these things themselves.
yeah,
Or if we don't have kids who can do that, how we can intervene
yeah,
in respectful ways to help them with that. Um, and yeah, I'm just thinking far out visual schedules. Yes.
yeah, really
And
helpful, I think.
I've got to get onto it. Like I've
Yeah.
got to get onto it. I'm like,
And
yep,
again, the
right,
power
nope.
of the laminator, like,
Yeah.
I don't leave the house or the office without something laminated. It's, and I think, in terms of, like, hygiene, the additional, benefit of then it not getting wet as well is helpful, um, in terms of modeling consent, you mentioned if, in your family, your young person needs you to be more involved in their care, for example, is a beautiful moment for modeling consent. Um, we know that unfortunately a lot of people living with disability that requires more care
Yeah.
feel like their bodies are not theirs, that
Yes.
they people do things to their bodies without checking and they almost get used to that, or accept that. And that does not have to be the way. We want all people in our community to feel bodily autonomy. Your body and your safety and
Mm,
your feelings deeply matter always. And if we can be working with our young person and say, "All right, I'm going to come over soon and ask if it's okay to wash your face. I'm just letting you know I'll be coming in a minute." Maybe you'd already talked about it earlier, and asking lots of questions to include them in the decision making around that. I've got two washes here that I've brought in. So this one's got flowers on it and this one's a purple one. Do you like the look or feel of one of these washes a bit better than the other one? Yeah.
mm.
And what do you think about the water temperature? Right. So I'm going to pop it in the water now. And with your permission, I'd like to help you give your face a little bit of a clean. Is that okay? There's so many moments where we can be letting them know without saying it directly that you're in charge.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
you do need some. I need to help you, but you're still in charge.
Yeah, I love that.
I think it's yeah, it is interesting that change with puberty, that things that they didn't need to do for their bodies to smell great. Like, how do
Mm.
babies smell great? I don't even understand because how do toddlers, you know, they shouldn't, but they somehow do. It's miraculous. And then one day you go to school and you don't do much at all physically, or you go to your day program, or you go and kick the ball around with your family and you get home and you've got body odor.
Mm, mm,
What?
mm.
I didn't have it yesterday. What about it today? So yeah, I think giving them options in how they're going to manage that, and with anything with this puberty stuff, I can't stress enough how, and it's so hard to try and remove any shame, any potential
Yes.
moments for shame and
Yeah.
embarrassment.
Yeah.
It's hard. It sounds like, because most of us think we're doing it. But sometimes, like, I am a smarty pants, a bit of a joker mum, and, like, I'll make a joke about something that I think's funny and find out that it was in fact not funny,
Mm,
and my joke was not appreciated, and, that offering to do that just really made my kiddo cranky, and then I got some repair work to do. I think it's a very, puberty is it's sensitive. This body stuff
Yeah.
is they're self-conscious, which is normal. So with being mindful of trying to approach things where there's like limited shame and embarrassment is helpful. And maybe
Yes, I
letting, I think we can let them know. I mean, if a lot of kids are happy to tell us, right, when we get it wrong as parents and carers.
gosh, yes. Mhm.
Mm. So maybe I guess we could remind them too. Like if we say something or in a way about this body stuff that upsets you, you can let me know, and I can handle it.
Yeah. Yeah, because we are I mean, look, it's the reality. We're talking about things that might feel icky, they might feel gross, they
Mm,
might feel weird, you know, and yeah, you need to be able to be called out so you can do it
mm,
differently next time.
yeah,
I would love you to take a
yeah.
few seconds to spruik Planet Puberty and some of the amazing tools that you do have on there so that our parents and carers know what they can access. If you'd like to jump up on your soapbox for me.
Yeah, thanks, Carly. Well, look, I can say as a consumer that I used Planet Puberty before I worked for Family Planning. So that's how you know that I'm not just being a bit cheeky. I do really believe in it. I first came across it when I was working doing one-on-one work with people, and I wanted something that I guess felt less cringe to that, but that wedge that we talked about before. I traditionally had used a lot of books and printed resources with people, visuals, and definitely I still have my car boot full of all of those things. But what I really appreciate about Planet Puberty, particularly with young people who love their laptops and iPads, and that's what they have at school. So whether we like it or not, they've
Yes,
got
it's
them.
part of their life.
They've got 'em. So, it is all online, and one of the things I use the most is the game. So there's 3
Yeah.
different games that are available on there where you can invite your young person to play those games, or you can play it with them,
Yeah.
and use it as a bit of an educational moment. So, there's a game about um, feelings. So I'll use that example. So looking at different facial expressions and identifying feelings. Puberty, something we didn't talk about. We talked a lot about bodily changes. We didn't
Mm,
talk about emotional changes.
no.
Do we have
Whew.
another 3 to 4 hours? I won't do that to your
Yes,
listeners, but
exactly.
it's a lot. It's a lot, and it's
I know we've got part 2 coming up. I bet we're gonna need to do part 3.
yeah, maybe. We've got to take a deep dive into big feelings.
Mhm.
So that is one example of the games where people can look at visuals of real people's facial expressions,
Mm,
and go on a learning journey with regards to that. Another example is who's in our orbit, which is looking at different types of relationships that we have in communities. So a really common example that I come across in life, in the community, is young person has a teacher or a support person that is so kind to them and they're super close and they love them.
mm.
And they start going through big feelings and they start learning
Yes.
about relationships and they start learning about marriage and they say, I love my support worker. I've got a scrunchie here. We'll call her Miss Scrunchie. And I love her and we're in love and I'm going to marry her. And she loves me. And I know that because she's so nice to me. It's such a hard thing to navigate relationships and what they mean. And
Mm,
so I would say that in my role doing education, it's one of the most common things I get approached about. Someone
mm,
in someone's life struggling to understand relationship boundaries.
mhm.
Why can I hug mum and give her a kiss on the cheek, but I can't hug Miss Scrunchy and give her a kiss on the cheek when they both love me and they both are kind to me?
Mhm.
So it's a game that helps young people to explore what different relationships mean and what types of behaviors with different relationships, what we would say just are okay and not okay. So
Yeah.
it's okay to wave to the bus driver. It's not okay to go up and give him a cuddle. And these aren't because of you, these are just the rules. I think it's really important we think of this stuff. This is just the rules and the way that relationships are, and different relationships have different rules. And that's got nothing to do with you at all, actually. It's just It's just the way it is. So, I make it sound so simple, but we know it's not. But exploring that with a game can be helpful because we're asking in that example, we're asking for our young person to do some problem solving.
Ah,
And when
oh,
they, there's no real getting it wrong if they click the button that isn't the right button, then that's a wonderful moment to say, why did you think that? And then you've got that opportunity to discuss. So I think using something like a resource like Planet Puberty Games is a great buffer between
ah,
that you and them looking into each other's eyes, talking about cringe stuff. But that might not be the best for everyone. There's also like social stories, visual schedules. So that we talked a lot about today, visual schedules. So they're very powerful. And the
ah,
cool thing is about them, go arts and crafts wild and make them work however suits your family. It's on the back of the door, laminated, cut into cards. Are you arranging them together and talking about, why are we doing it in this? There's so many ways that you could do it. So
yes.
also with the topics on Planet Puberty, there are lesson plans. So you can go into a topic and it can give you some more guided instructions. So there's that method. There's also the method getting on there, having a play, exploring it yourself, like we talked way back and out at the
Oh,
beginning of today,
ah,
and making up your own plan of, well, this is my family's values. This is the way my young person likes to learn, and writing your own little plan that you think's going to work best for
ah,
you. And,
yeah.
keeping in mind having a couple of tools in the toolbox to give that young person a bit
Some
of
autonomy.
bit of
Yeah,
autonomy. It really
yeah.
goes. It sets a lovely tone.
I'm also so I'm lucky I've got boys and a girl. So,
Mhm.
and what I mean by lucky is that it means that the conversations around puberty are
Mm,
going to happen across both genders in my
yeah.
house. And therefore, the boys are going to need to learn a little bit about what's going on for girls and girls for boys.
Mm,
I would, as a parent, like to put the call out there to other parents to teach about the alternate gender as
yeah.
well.
Yeah.
I know it's big enough to dive into the gender of the child that you have,
Mm,
but I think it makes things so much better for them when they're a little bit older to
mhm,
understand the body, the changes of the other gender so that
mhm.
they can lead with empathy and compassion. So if,
Absolutely.
if you can draw on that and go
Mm,
into a little bit more cringe,
mm,
if if you've got a boy and you can explain what periods are, if you've got a girl and you can explain why you might have boys in your class
mm,
and they get an erection,
mm,
it means that some embarrassment can be removed from future conversations and
mm.
relationships.
And it creates empathy.
Exactly.
It creates empathy. I totally support what you're saying. And if I'm out in the community in a group setting, I don't want to separate any genders. I want everyone to. We all have. If you've got a body, take a seat. Like,
Mm, yeah.
this is. It's important information for everyone to learn, and it really does create empathy. We period cringeness, I mean, honestly, it keeps me up at night. It's such a common occurrence that I come across,
Mm,
of all ages. I would say, to be honest, actually worse, much worse in older generation, not to try and now
yes.
I'm shaming people, but, um,
But
you
that's
know
also partially difference in exposure.
definitely.
It's what they
And
grow up
you
with.
you see, like, people who are sort of our age and older that, that will, dads that will say to me, "I'll never buy my, young person period products." Like, no way, and that's, I'm not, again, it's not having a dig at it's not having been exposed
Mm,
to approaching puberty and bodies in a way that makes it feel normalized. Um, but, because it is. But I
yeah.
think, yeah, including,
50% of the world get them.
exactly. And then, there's all the stigma around the moods, like, oh, you must have PMS, or like, these are not helpful things at all. And then same, like, if a fellow a person with a penis gets a surprising erection in class, it doesn't mean he's in love with you. Or like, there's a lot of assumptions that come around
Mm.
some of these things happening. Um, so definitely we want to try and do, and like I'm one of the, I don't, it sounds like you are too. I'm of this generation that I'm so excited about the young people. The opposite. I'm like, oh, young people these days. I'm like, thank God for these young people. They are, I think, the kindest, most open-minded, you know, people in history, and I am so
Mhm.
excited
Mhm.
about uh, all the things they're going to fix for all of us. No pressure. But I think that if they're, approaching their peers in a way that we're all going through different bodily stuff at different stages,
Mm.
and that's okay. And understanding what each other are going through is really, 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 really helpful. In thinking about going back to that prep stuff, then finding books, games, whatever, that are inclusive of all genders is a great start. There's
Yeah.
certainly was a pattern, you know, of, of education times past where a lot of resources are very gendered. If for cultural, personal reasons, that's still what people want, it's still
Mm.
certainly available.
Mm.
But I think if you're wanting to give your young person education that's representative of all bodies. What
Yes.
this is, all of your peers have different bodies, and this is the things that are going to be happening at different stages and times for them. There's
Mm.
wonderful resources on Planet Puberty, books you can get that you. Planet Puberty also has resources of where you can go for further reading too,
Mm.
including a library of actual books if that's something people want to explore. But finding ones that do talk about all genders is really helpful. And again, then it's not you as the parent or carer being like, "This is what I think. This is what the book says."
Yes.
So,
Books. This book is fact. It's just
yeah,
fact. Yeah.
exactly. And if it's got a hardcover or laminated, that's even more powerful. So, yeah, I think equipping ourselves with that. And interestingly, going back to our generation and older, we may be learning in this experience about other genders because we
Mhm.
never knew it ourselves,
Mhm. Yeah.
which is fascinating.
Yeah.
So it's a great opportunity for us as grown-ups to have more empathy and understanding of other people in our community too.
And to be empathetic of your child's journey if you're learning as they're learning.
Yeah, and
Mm.
that's a good being okay to get it wrong, right?
Yeah.
Like we want to humanize this experience wherever we can. Like I said, I got in trouble earlier in the week for the way I approached a discussion about body odor. Thought it was a Thought I was trying to be light and funny, and it was not a topic that was open to that style of discussion.
The stone just landed with a thud, did it?
It sure did.
Yeah.
But I was, politely informed of my poor delivery and able to go in for another crack. But Um, I think that's an interesting point. I sometimes try and be light and funny and lighthearted about puberty, and it's not for some young people. And in
Mm.
this particular moment with one of my young people, it was not. It's serious,
Mm.
and not to be not to be approached
It's
lightly.
not trivial.
No.
Mm.
So I
Mm.
note taken and will adjust my approach. Um, so this is an interesting example. Like this is my job, and I've worked in sexual and reproductive health for a long time, and I got it wrong. So good luck, everyone. We're all in this together. Um, but because I'm within the mum, these trusted people that are not. I think is a really important point too. So I like keep
Mm.
introducing that into discussions that him including that in discussions, I should say that having, if you don't want to talk to me about this, like that's totally fine. You can, but let's remember those other people that we talked about, and they are happy for you to give them a call or go for a walk with them to have a chat or whatever. Go for car therapy
Mm.
whenever you
Mhm.
need if you want to have a talk. Because I do think sometimes, no matter how cool we think we are, I thought I was cool, found out I wasn't this week. No, I knew I wasn't. That it's sometimes just because you're the parent or carer, they just it's just too cringe. So we can try our
Particularly,
best.
it's funny, particularly in adolescence, and I wish I could quote where I'd read this, but I remember reading when they were talking about as children go through the process of becoming teenagers and adolescents, and they're trying to seek their independence from
Mm,
us. So,
mm,
the short version of it, when they're really little, we are their role model. They want to mimic us because that is how they know how to become a grown up or
mm,
person in the world. And then the moment that they hit adolescence,
mm,
that is when they are identifying themselves as separate from us. And so
mm,
sometimes they don't want to come to us because they want to prove that they're capable. And I remember reading that trusted family, friends, aunts, and uncles
mm,
truly come into their own in
mm.
adolescence if they let themselves be.
Yeah.
So those kind of like they're in the circle, but
Mm,
they don't own the circle the way parents do. They really have this incredible opportunity to have this bond
mm,
of honesty and truth and integrity
mm.
to help this person become themselves. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
highlighting those other relationships
Yeah,
is so
and
vital.
early, like naming them, getting them to name them so they know. And I think that doesn't mean that we didn't do something right. It's just what you said. Like it just can, maybe we think of it as plan A. Like we could go into it, be prepared, be ready, be open, set the scene, make it feel safe and comfortable. We're plan A, and they're just like, nope. And that's and being okay with that, but then having okay, well, who's our plan B? Like who are so, and always I think more than one is great because
Mm.
you call mum's best friend and she happens to be on sabbatical. So having it's heartbreaking when you hear the young people say all the time. There's lots of research about it that they go for help and they don't get it and then they go forget
Mm.
about it. We
Yeah,
don't want that ever to happen. So we want
yeah.
to make sure if plan A isn't going to work, that they've got a few other options, got a plan B, C, D of other trusted people that they can go to. And maybe our job is just helping them get to them.
Mm. Mm.
Our job's helping them. Oh, you know what? I'm going to tee up for Arnie, to come over.
Mm. Mm.
I'll go. Don't worry, I'll go. And I'll leave you some money for some ice creams. And
Yeah, yeah.
so
You
I
guys can
think,
have pizza together and I'll piss off.
yeah, you're pissed off exactly. So I think it's okay as long as our job is just making sure they're getting it, that they're getting being heard and getting information that's trustworthy, good information from a good source.
Beautiful.
Mm.
Um, I've myself got so much to process from this. It's been fantastic.
Me too. Always learning and processing.
And oh my goodness, I'm so looking forward to our second chat.
Me too.
So parents, carers, we are going to get a little bit more specific in our next episode with some hints and tips around some of the more challenging conversations and how we can actually support our young people through it. Really, really excited. And Heather, thank you so
Wow.
much for sharing your humor, your passion, your knowledge with all of us, and making this feel, I guess, a little bit more everyday and a little less foreign.
Yeah, good. That's it makes me very happy to hear. Thank you. It's a pleasure to talk about. And I joked, but I'm serious when I say we're all in this together. We're learning together. We're failing together, and then learning again. And that's okay. I think all we can
That is
ever
very,
hope for
very
is
well said.
is we just got to trying our best.
Perfect. All right. Look forward to talking to you soon.
Thanks, guys.
Be sure to check the show notes on our website for any links and references. You can find us at youcangrowyourownway.podbean.com. And if you found this episode helpful, we would love you to help us get the word out. You can share the podcast, tell a friend, and be sure to click the follow or subscribe button so you can access all our new episodes. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram, where we would love to connect with you. You Can Grow Your Own Way recognises Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples as the first peoples of this place, now known as Australia. We're coming to you from Jabberung, Jawajali and Wadawurrung country. the country of our guest speaker, and from wherever you are listening. We respect the elders of the past and present, and we share our friendship and kindness.